Hello and welcome back to Corby's puppetry course. This week we're going to be turning our assembled puppet into a finished decorated puppet. This week you will need your puppet, your eyes and foam features, your fabric, your felt tip pens, your scissors and PVA glue, your tape and your arm rods. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. It's now been 24 hours, so the foam is all dry and we can start taking off the tape. So just peel it off nice and slowly. You can also use scissors to cut your tape, just make sure you don't accidentally cut the foam. The tape can be a little tougher with the fabric, so just be nice and gentle when you're peeling it off. And don't forget to reach inside and take off any tape that you stuck inside the mouth. And here we have a fully assembled puppet. You may find that you have a little bit of excess fabric hanging off your foam. If you don't want this, you can cut it off, but I quite like it on my puppet, so I'm going to leave it. If there's also any seams that haven't glued fully, like this one here, you can put some more PVA in and tape it back up, and that will help seal up the seam. You can also untape your eyes. We now have a nice little bit of foam in there that will let us stick it onto our face. The final thing I'd recommend doing at this stage is have a little think about how you want to decorate your puppet. So we need to harden the areas of foam where we're planning to stick our various features. On my puppet, I'm planning on having some hair, some ears, eyes, nose and a spot. So I'm going to prepare my puppet. But depending on what features you want, depends where you need to put your glue. So for the hair, I'm going to cover this head in a layer of PVA glue. Just with the same technique we did in our first puppet session. With my excess foam pieces, I'm also going to prepare some of my features. I'm going to make my ears and my spot out of foam, so I'm going to cut those shapes now. For my spot, I'm just going to go with a little circle, and for my ears, I'm just going to cut little semicircles. And I'm just going to prepare my pieces with a little bit of glue. You can make all sorts of features out of your foam, so get creative. With my last puppet, I made my nose out of foam, so you could do something similar. We can leave this puppet to dry once again, and when we come to our next session, we'll be able to decorate it. It's now the next day and the glue has dried. First things first is to add any colour to your plastic pieces. If you have any paint left over from the last project, you can paint these up to any colour you want, or you can use the felt tip pens that come in your pack. I'm going nice and simple and just painting my pupils and the nose black. But you can go for any colour that you want. You may need a few coats to get the coverage you desire. Next I'm going to focus on my hair, and for this I'm going to use my fabric. I'm thinking I'm going to turn my puppet into a weird green alien. For my alien, I'm going to use my pre-cut felt strips and glue them straight on, but you can also use your fabric and cut it to the desired hair shape you want and stick it on as one big piece. You can see that's what I've done with this puppet here. It's exactly the same process, just with less pieces. I'm just going to test out what sort of thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for nice and crazy, so I'm just going to place my pieces on. I want my hair to have lots of movement with it, so I'm just going to put glue on a small section, and only that section will go hard, and the rest will be able to flow around when you move the puppet around. You can also cut these pieces further if you want smaller pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big blob of glue in the middle of mine, and I'm just going to place it on top and give it a nice push, making sure the PVA glue goes on top of the hardened foam, and just push it down and soak all of the PVA in. You don't have to put your glue straight on the middle. If you wanted your character to have hair that went backwards, you can also put it along this edge here and then leave this part here, and that way this will harden and this bit will flow. Say you were doing a character with long hair going backwards, you would just stick it on over like that and glue it down. If you want hair that doesn't move, you can glue the whole section and just stick it on like so. The first one will be able to move either side, the second one will just be able to move at the back, and this one here won't be able to move at all, it will be stuck down to the hair. The same principle applies if you're going to be using one fabric piece. On this one, I've glued this section here, and you can see that the areas I haven't glued are free to move around when I move the puppet. Ideally, you want to cover all of the white hardened foam with your fabric hair pieces. I'm going to continue with this until I have the level of hair that I am happy with. You can also shape some of this as well depending on where you glue it. So for example, I'm going to glue this piece here on the end, and I'm actually going to bring it over, stick it over here. And you can see I can make myself a nice little quiff this way. And if I did that with lots of layers, I'd have a really nice kind of alien quiff going on. If you're deciding to use fur to decorate your puppet, you've got even more options about styling. You can leave the fur as it is, or if you want it to stand in a certain way, you can put some PVA glue all over the fur, and it works a little bit like hair gel. So I'll show you on a little smaller piece. I'll put a load of PVA all over the fur. I'm going to rub it in, and then simply I'm going to style the fur the way I want it. So I've just gone nice and simple and pulled it up and spiked all the hair up, but if you wanted to use a comb to make it slick or style it a certain way, you can also do that. When this dries, all of the fur will stay that way and it will stay nice and spiky. I'm going to leave my hair like this, so the next thing to do is use my felt tip pens. The felt tip pens are good for drawing on any extra fine details, and you can draw anything you want directly onto the foam. For my alien, I'm going to give him some nice eyebrows and a funky colourful beard, but you can draw anything you want onto the foam. I'm going to move this hair out of the way, and I'm simply just going to draw my eyebrows above. Once you draw your felt tip on, it will stay, so have a careful think what you want to do before you start marking it out. So there's my two eyebrows. With the felt tip pens, there's actually a hidden technique. What you'll need for this is a little scrap of foam separate from your puppet. And the felt tip pen takes a little bit of time to dry, so what you can do is actually use this to smudge it onto your puppet. So rather than a pen streak, you'll get a nice smooth effect. So you can take this and then just rub it onto your puppet, and you'll see that will start to colour the foam a bit more broadly. You could use this to make lots of different effects on your puppets. You could make rosy cheeks, you could create shadows, you can do all sorts. I'm using this technique to create some red stubble underneath my colourful beard. So there we go, my alien's got some red stubble around his face. So now I'm going to go in and give him some colourful little hairs with the felt tip pens. Sometimes the felt tip pens can come off a slightly different colour when you put them on top of your coloured foam. So with your excess, I'd recommend just doing a little test drawing first. I'm going to use a few different colours to get the effect that I want. And there we go, I've given my alien a nice little beard. Now hopefully by this point the paint on your facial features should have dried, so now we can glue these onto our puppet and our puppet will be complete. I'd recommend doing this step last because otherwise it can get in the way of doing your hair and your felt tip pens. So it's nice and simple. All we need to do is put some glue onto our foam and just push it down onto the puppet. And they should just stay. You just need to be a little bit careful that they don't fall off. If they do, you can reinforce them with some tape. I want my spot to be a little bit more round, so I'm just going to use my scissors to round off the shape. Simply stick it onto your hardened area that you had before. I would do your nose next. Nice big blob of glue. Remember, reach in and give it a nice push. Sometimes the foam might try and unstick, so all you need to do is copy the technique we used last week and just put a little bit of tape down on top of the foam just to secure it into place. I'd always recommend doing the eyes last, as they can be the most important feature of the puppet. There's a special technique called the Henson triangle. Now you'll notice on these eyes that they are not centered, they're slightly in. So what we need to do is turn the eyes so that both of them are pointing into the middle, and that will make it look like the puppet's looking at you. You can see that's when they're turned to the middle, and if I turn them away, they suddenly don't look as realistic. But if you turn them just like that, it looks like they're looking at you. If you wanted a nice crazy puppet, you could turn them around and it would make the puppet look very crazy. Or if you wanted them to look one particular way, you could aim them that way. But what I would always recommend is point them both into the middle, and then it'll look like the puppet is looking at you. And like with all the other foam pieces, I'd recommend you tape them down. All we need to do is let the PVA dry. It's now been a few hours, my glue's all dry so I can take off my tape. And there we go, we have one very strange looking alien puppet. The last thing I need to show you is how to attach the arm rods. This is very simple. All you need to do is bring it into your arm, give it a pinch on the side and just give it a nice gentle push up the foam. And then you'll be able to move your arm around. And same with the other one. With these forms of puppets, you can use either one rod or two. I would suggest just attaching one arm rod first so you can get to using it, and then you can upgrade to using two. And now you should have your very own foam puppet to play around with. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed making your own foam puppet. Please do post some pictures of your puppets in our WhatsApp group. Remember to join one of our puppetry sessions Tuesdays 6 till 7 or Wednesdays 4 till 5. I'll look forward to seeing you next time on another puppet making project.